10, thank you. Being it is almost 9:30, we're going to call the morning work session of the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners to order. Our first order of business is Potts and Associates update. Zach, how are we doing today?
Doing all right. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Zach.
Oh, fantastic. See, there's this little setting on my phone that I have that turns my microphones off. So I have to remember to turn that off so you can hear me. Well, thanks for taking the time this morning, gentlemen. I always appreciate it. This morning is more of a interim planning kind of start of a conversation about what you guys might want to look at over the interim, kind of talking a little bit about some of these policies that have been put in place this year and last year, and then how they're affecting us. Kind of, for example, one of the things that we're hearing a lot of right now is coming from the medical community, and specifically the nurses. And I don't know what it's like in your area with doctors' offices, hospitals, any of that, but in Spokane, the Spokane police has said that they are not going to respond to any of the calls at the hospital unless there's, an attack with a deadly weapon or something like that, because of the new regulations that have been put in place with respect to what use of force the police can use and what they can respond to and what they have to do. So there's a lot of things like that that are kind of coming around, and we're really starting to see from the 2021 and 2022 session come into effect and really start to impact our communities. And one of the things that I think we have an opportunity here. There will be some upsets and I think some shift in the waters here on the November midterm elections. And I think both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, know it. And so we may have an opportunity here to get in front of some of these legislators, some of the incumbents, whether they're up for election or not. I think they're kind of figuring out that they need to shape up and get some things done. So just kind of wanted to put that in your guys's, in your sights, I guess. And, maybe we can work with WASAC here. I know that there's some meetings coming up that they have set up over the next couple of weeks that we'll learn a lot more on. But, it may not be a bad idea to see if we could invite some of these Western, legislators to come and visit you guys, even some of the people who are running for a position. Just get some education done. You guys are in kind of a really beautiful area and kind of a little bit more off the beaten path, you kind of need to be going to Klickitat County to go to Klickitat County kind of thing. Especially for somebody who lives in Seattle, they stay on I-90 or I-5, right? So that's kind of what I wanted to chat about, see what your guys' thoughts were.
Thoughts? Seatmates?
This is Commissioner Christopher. I guess for me, the biggest things that, I don't know, I have a bunch of pipe dreams that I'd like to see, but, I don't think I'm going to see any of those. So, and I'm sure we as a county will be pushing with WASAC as well. But if we can get some groundwork laid on that, what was House Bill 1921, the PILT bill for green energy projects. And then Chris Corey also had a decommissioning plan. Those are, I think, two big things for our county that we need to get in front of rather than be chasing our tails next year.
Okay. Chris Corey actually called me about 4 or 5 days ago looking for money. So it's a really good time to get these guys' attention.
That's why I said it, sir.
Yeah. So anyways, do you guys have any policy statements on those two issues specifically? And if not, it would be really helpful if you could put one together for each of them and, just kind of put it out as a board so that I have something to share.
All righty, we will discuss it and work on it. Thank you.
So cool. And then, I think that's a good start. If you can get me a couple of policy statements that I can get in front of these guys and say, hey, this is what we're doing out in Klickitat County. Here's kind of the landscape. You know, the PILT payments are a big deal. 0.09 money. You know, any of the stuff with the that Chris Corey's working on. You know, and just start the conversation that way and say, you know, we would love to have you come out and take a tour, see what we're looking at. You know, see the area, so that you know really what you're asking from downtown Seattle or downtown Tacoma or Bellingham or whatever.
So you're thinking of, you know, pick 3-4 items, list them all in one policy statement or letter, and then give that to you, or list them in different policy statements?
That's completely up to you. Either way would be just fine. You know, the benefit of splitting them apart is, you know, if we have a friend in a certain area that likes one but not the other, we can deliver them independently, but it's also convenient to deliver them all together.
Okay.
So, but the goal would be to get some of these legislators from the densely populated cities who are in line for committee chairs, who, you know, have some influence, to come out and just see, just with their own eyes, just see what you guys are doing, so they know. That way, you know, when we go back to them here this next year, and I'm standing in front of them, or you're standing in front of them, you know, you can look at them and say, you've been here. You know what we're dealing with. This policy that you guys are trying to put forward, here's the holes in it. And because you've seen it, you understand. That's what we're going for.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. Well, and that's all I have for you guys. So if you have any questions or anything, you know, fire away, and otherwise we can follow up when you get your policy statements ready.
Well, that was just me. My 2 seatmates, I think, have stuff, so.
Oh dear. All right. So there's 2.
Yeah, I did turn my mic on. Zach, Dave Sauter. Actually, all I was going to do is just reiterate as far as the renewable energy, the PILT with the solar. I think it would be a really good idea to get some of those Western legislators out. You know, they have had a policy as far as the renewable policy, which is fine, but those are, you know, those generally are located on east side rural counties, and the users are in dense urban areas. So the impacts of those are borne by the rural folks, and the benefits are being used somewhere else. And I think there are impacts from placing these projects in rural Washington, and I think they need to understand that. And again, they've set a policy as far as what they want, as far as the kind of green energy and stuff, which I don't have an issue with, but I think they need to understand it's not just, oh, that's over somewhere else and we have it over here. And they're, you know, I was not surprised, although I was disappointed as far as the PILT bill. I mean, this was a short session. That was a heavy, big, complex piece of legislation to try to pass. And I think we quickly saw how it got derailed, where people didn't really understand. I mean, there was people fighting about it that didn't really understand what we were even trying to accomplish. And so I think we have a big education piece to get, I mean, and not just with commissioners, but with the assessors, you know, because a lot of the, I think, pushback or concern were raised by at least a county assessor, but county assessors that really didn't understand. And there was some policy discussion in there too that frankly I didn't think people should have been having, that, oh, this is a bad bill because it's like that's not your lane as far as you know, let's understand what the impacts are to your office as far as to implement this, but don't be using your office to try to set a policy agenda. And so I do think it would be really good to get some of those key folks over here so that they understand, and that we're all not a bunch of crazies over here, that we can peacefully coexist. And, you know, I'm fine to host these projects, but I want to make sure that our folks are taken care of and that there is a net benefit to our folks to host these projects here.
You know, and I think you kind of touched on the unsaid part of it as well. They put a lot of these projects on the shoulders of local economic development. And I think that's a good thing to kind of illustrate for a lot of these legislators that don't really understand. It's not the kind of economic development you would think of, or not exactly the economic development you want. That's why we're talking about, the PILT payments and the taxes, because that's where you get your revenue. It's not like they're creating hundreds of jobs in your community,
Right.
and the service comes from outside the community, so that those things like that are definitely, the things that carry the bills forward or the policy forward, and the people that stand in the way of that, you're right. There's some points they need to understand.
Zach, this is Commissioner Anderson. The one I'd like, and I firmly believe in bringing those legislators down here and over here and looking at these. The one that gets me is that the state passed legislation for helping green energy, but when they did it, they eliminated the sales tax for the local jurisdictions as well. So not only do we have to host these these projects, but you're also taking away our sales tax off of them. And that hurts all of our locals. I mean, that hurts our local tax base. That hurts, what we as commissioners do. Whereas at least the legislation for the data centers, that was, the state is not going to get their sales tax, but it didn't impact our locals. And that was the difference between being able to support legislation and be against it. And so if we can put that as a priority on fixing that so that at least those two are aligned so that the locals can ensure that, on these large projects, we get our sales tax. Because from our perspective, we just had to raise sales tax across the board for everyone. Yet these large corporations are getting a complete pass. There's a fairness issue there that I think the West Side legislators should be able to recognize and see.
Yeah, they should be able to recognize that when you show them. A question on that: would you say then that how they have the tax structured for the data centers would be a good model for whether the renewable energy sector as well?
For the
Much
sales
better.
tax, it's a much
On the
better.
sales tax.
Yeah, from the sales tax. And we looked into that because we were afraid it was going to be the same thing. But the way that they wrote it and it only dealt with the state sales tax issues, the way that legislation was written.
Got it. Well, I mean, because that gives us something to point to. Say, look, you guys did a great job with the data centers. You're really incentivizing them to come to the state, but we still have our local tax burden that we have to take care of. Let's bring the renewable energy in line with what we have going on here with these data centers. So, I mean, I think that's a really clear line to be able to draw. So that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that. I like, if we can, work out a workshop or two and get some policy statement done and then, yeah, I would love, it's a campaign year, so they're going to be touring and whining and dining and smiling and pictures and all that good stuff. So it wouldn't be a good time to get them out here. Go see what a 100 megawatt solar farm looks like. And I don't know, get them to have their eye on the ball and maybe they'll
Yep.
hear us next time.
Yep. Maybe we can entice them with a fancy picture in front of a windmill for their constituency.
Yep. And then come look out our observatory telescope and look at pictures of the sun while they're here.
There you go. I like it. So, all right. Well, I think we have a pretty good plan. This has been very productive. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on here before we part ways and you guys get to work so you can get these policy statements done?
Not here, Zach. Thank you for your time, sir. And thank you for everything you do for us.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to work for you guys. And, it's always a pleasure to come down and see you. I'm hoping to get down there this summer, because we haven't been in person. So come back down and see you here before session again.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up, we have board pending. Gentlemen, do you have anything for board pending you'd like to talk about?
Oh, I do and I don't. Since
I'm intrigued.
let me back up. The Wasac virtual assemblies on Mondays. The agenda coming up. Yesterday was courthouse historic preservation grants. Next week, legislative ideas forum. So since you're our guy, I don't know if you want to be on that one or if you want me screaming at everybody. I wouldn't scream at everybody, but you know. Well, so I thought I would point that out. So it's next Monday, so you know that one. The Monday after that is Wasac VP nominees to NACO. The one after that is Director of Ecology. The one after that is Director of Department of Fish and Wildlife. But the main reason I brought that up is because next week's legislative one, get in front of some of these things here and make sure. I'm sure it's going to be on Wasac's agenda, but I just want to.
Okay. Do you have anything?
I don't really, because I'm woefully out of touch, so.
You're still on vacation, huh?
No.
We,
Nothing that jumps out at me.
Maybe have a board pending later too, if I think of something before we're
Yeah.
done with today.
I mean, we still have a board pending at 2:50. I think we just stuck this in here because
fill
we
up a
to
little
To fill up
this
some
space.
time.
Director Irving, you're sitting in here. Is there something you wanted? No.
Oh, no, we do not.
We don't have workshops this
I
month.
apologize.
No,
Yes,
it's,
we do, but we don't have,
Solid waste.
right.
Okay.
Actually, I do have something. I was contacted Jessica Mehta from McKed. So we have on the McKed board, there is Jan Brending is representing Washington cities, and she's retiring in June, and so her seat will become available. Also, there's a second gentleman, and his name escapes me, but he was the tech sector guy, something, and he worked for Zephyr, and he has taken a new job with Full Sail Ale, and so he obviously can't represent tech anymore. And so, let me look at Jessica's email. So he could, but he is Jason Hartman. He is a city councilor in White Salmon. And so her thought was, could we flip and he would be the Washington cities and we could appoint a new person to the tech sector but did the board, since the tech sector rep has been pretty heavily on the west end of the county, do we want to at least contemplate opening that up and looking for a tech sector person that's more east to have more? Because the board is pretty weighted, especially with the discussions about having Gillum County join McKed. Then that adds that's a further east county, because they're very sensitive to that, which I don't know. There's a subcommittee on that. I've been, like the Washington folks, we all met to discuss, what do we think about that? Because there's currently 3 Oregon counties and 2 Washington counties. And so we've always already, and that would be 4 and 2. And so the board is going to be having a discussion about that, which we need to have a discussion. And I've just said, well, we already feel a little underrepresented on the board, which we're actually not. We have the same number of seats. It's more of an appearance thing. And so the Washington folks were like, we're open to have, it's only like Gillum County is only like 1,800 population. Yeah. And it's actually, Klickitat County goes further east than it does. So it's not, geographically, it's not a big deal. But I think they're just trying to be really sensitive to, do we want to have some representative that's more, try to shift some of the stuff to the east? So I said I would bring it up.
I would, me, I like fair and balanced.
Yeah.
From all sides of the county. And so, I personally don't care if it's the city rep or tech sector rep on that side. And then whichever one isn't, should it come from closer to this side, Dallasport that way. But I don't know how many tech sector people you're gonna find out here, so that's
Right.
what I'm saying, tech sector's easy there, but they need to have a city rep over here. I don't know that, you know,
I think part of what she was thinking was for continuity where, because if we don't, then we'll have to have two new people versus,
Oh, I see.
you can repurpose an existing person. So we would have two new people on the board, and is that?
Does Jason want to continue on?
I don't know. I don't know if she'd even reached out as far as to, I would suspect yes, just because I don't think she would even raise the issue without checking with him first about staying on the board. So the chamber's representative is from Goldendale now.
Who is it, by the way?
It's,
Jonathan Lewis?
yeah,
We had two people from the west side before.
Right.
We had you and the chamber from the east side. Whoever wants to do it, I don't know where you're gonna get a tech sector person from the east side.
right.
That's where I'm at, unless they.
We don't really have, unless
They live here and work there. You know,
Yeah.
maybe there's a possibility, but good luck with that unicorn.
Because the only tech we really, would be the a renewable, maybe you could stretch the
Oh. That's a possibility.
definition.
But the MCED is pretty big on tech industry and the hope shop and the workshops
And it's been,
and it is-
pretty centered around aerospace and the stuff down, because that is a huge
As I said, I don't
sector.
want to necessarily take the tech person out of that region. I think that is the biggest tech region in the county, and that's where that representative should come from. I don't know, I just hate the idea of,
Another idea I have
Okay,
is
another.
that we have a lot of new people moving into the area that are working remote, that are managing multi-$100 million tech businesses that are CEOs, and that's, when I think of tech and growth in the county, I think a lot of it is gonna be via software, and you can live anywhere
That's
where you're
true.
doing it.
Yeah.
And that would be a big one I would think to look at. And I think you're getting some people moving up here that are remote working as well. I would assume that the really big ones are on the west side though, where there's a little more rain, but,
yeah.
yeah, you can change your mind. Is there you have anything else?
No. Okay.
I have a question that I just remembered that I wrote down so I won't forget. Housing Corporation or the housing,
Mhm.
Columbia Gorge Housing. The Roosevelt project, has that been completely removed from the housing board now? I know they were talking about it.
No, it is, we opted to not convert, at the end of the 15-year period. So it is, we technically, we still own it, but we are in the process of divesting.
Okay.
So or it goes to the investors is who have it, and we'll step out of it. Although it's actually cash flowing now. It's full.
Oh,
I think, well, because that was gonna come up with my question.
Because the board at the last board update, we were like, well,
Well,
maybe we don't want to get rid
That
of it.
was
They're
my
like, no,
question
but
is
there's
because
deferred maintenance and there's all
previous
these
boards
things.
were having to write a check,
Mhm.
and we didn't have to do that this year. So I'm like, did it disappear or did it finally
No,
start?
it's
paying
actually,
off?
it's full again. And so, because the project always cash flow, it was generally pretty full, but it went through about a 4 or 5 year period. The previous
Where
4 or
people
5,
didn't qualify.
it didn't qualify, and we were down, our occupancy rate was down around 60%. And it was like, it won't pay for itself.
And I didn't want to keep writing the check. So
So-
as long as I'm not having to write the check, I'm good.
But we
So-
did put our note, because we had to put our notice in, are we gonna buy out the investors and keep it, the Columbia Cascade Housing? And we said, no, we're not. And so they will have to find a home for it, and then we'll be out of it as far as, but no, it is cash flowing now. So, but there is all that deferred maintenance that,
Mhm.
and it's depleted all its reserves for maintenance already. So it's not a great you know, if it stayed at, you know, near full occupancy for the next 4 or 5 years, it would, you know, because part of that, the models are built so that they, you know, money goes aside and goes into the reserves. And it had done that for years, but then you can't
So-
not do it for 4 or 5 years.
If you guys divest of that and a private whatever comes in and buys it, do they have to live under the original
Yes,
terms?
because the original terms are, it is, I believe the dollars for it when the project was built, it's obligated for at least 30 years.
Oh, wow. So
So,
if it's not making money for us, it's not making money for them, and you might not find a buyer.
Or maybe they'll find somebody who wants to market it a little better,
yeah,
but that's up to them.
that's up to them.
Director Irving.
I wanted to bring back the contract discussion, so I'm not quite sure where we want to be at for that. So I just wanted to bring it back up because, I mean, our time is still ticking.
It is ticking.
Yeah. Stephen just got back from vacation. You just got back from vacation, so it'd be nice to be able to set up a time where we might be able to come back together to have a conversation
Yes,
about what's coming and what's going and where we're at.
yeah.
So,
I think that would be a good idea.
You guys started that day at all?
Yes, I'm sorry.
As far as the contract, is
Mhm.
this about
The host fee.
No,
No, yeah,
Yeah, no, this
the
is
letter
about-
that
Let me clarify,
Republic
this is about,
sent,
yeah, this
sort
is
of
about
invoking
changing
their,
12 in the contract.
right.
Um,
had a
our-
couple of meetings already, or?
We pretty much just had a meeting to have a meeting. I mean, to have a
Yeah.
meeting to set a meeting, and that's their official letter, because we said, we need something in writing
Right,
from
right,
you
okay.
that, you know,
That starts the clock
you've talked to
ticking.
us about this host fee thing multiple times, but you need to actually trigger, which I do need to have a conversation with, I've had very limited conversation with the prosecuting attorney.
Yep.
I got the impression, and I don't want to speak for him, that that a clock has not necessarily been started because they didn't actually cite a specific
Right. I think they're
reference
supposed to be
in the
working on that.
contract. And I think to start the clock, you have to, that's the clock you're starting. You have to say it in the letter. Otherwise, it's a request at this point.
Yeah, well.
And maybe that was on purpose on their part, that they didn't want to do it that way. I
There-
don't know.
Yeah, when I responded, it was to find out when they would be giving us their reasoning, like
Right.
the internal data for, you know, why they want to go this route. And they haven't done that yet because of some company stuff and vacation.
Right.
So we'll probably get back to it at the end of this week, Stephen and I, to have conversations. I have been through the contract over and over, and there's a lot of language in there regarding quarterly fees. So I don't know that it would be in our best interest to go to a rate at the beginning of the year or the end of the year, which I think is part of the ask for
Right.
the changing of Article 12, the tiered system, and then, you know, paying in the year. So
Yeah, and
Need
I
those
want to go
details.
and refresh myself
we
because
need the
I'm,
details before we can really know for sure.
right, because I was not clear from their ask about modifying or revising those quarterly fee, because the fee structure now it's not super complicated, but it is somewhat where, you know, we think of it as like, oh, well, once a quarter we get paid.
Mhm.
But it's not the way we get paid, and why we get paid in the contract is fairly like there's some money goes to this, some money comes from here. It all gets lumped into here's a check. And I think we have been really focused on you know, we're willing to have a discussion as long as the check you give us is the right amount and it doesn't change. But I'm not sure they're talking about moving things around inside all those little categories and what would the unexpected consequence of that. Suddenly the check is different
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, well, that part of that overall number you were getting was in this article and that's gone now. So
Or
we're
that
not paying
quarterly
that.
check isn't even there anymore.
Right. And so we need to I don't think they're trying to do that. I think they're
No.
trying to make it simpler,
Yeah.
but I think, well, yeah. But the better for the, I mean, yeah, it's obviously they're interested in making it better for them. That's, you know, we all have our eyes open
Right.
about that.
But some better for them could mean better for us.
Could be better for us too, as long as I'm willing to contemplate
Right.
if it's better for both of us,
Still
not.
need all of the information, so.
Right.
Like I said, I just wanted to put that back into the
Yeah.
forefront so that we can continue with that conversation.
See, the more we talk, the more things I think of discussing on board of it.
Yeah.
That's what happens when there's silence.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
for
did
Okay, thank you.
You're here, Dave's here. I might as well give 2 more minutes. Sam Lowe, Snohomish County
Oh.
contacted us. So I ended up going out with him and doing a tour
Oh, good.
of the landfill stuff, and then drove the long way back through Bickleton and went out to lunch with him, and he was impressed. The day we were out there, they were looking for a murder weapon.
Wow.
Good luck with that. But yeah, no, he was very impressed, mostly with the open face. Essentially, doesn't even really look like an open face. It's not what you would typically think of a landfill. So, no, it went really well. So.
I was just kind of curious because he had sent me, I was gone, and he had sent me a thing and I responded when I got back, and I'm glad. That's what he said, he had a great time and stuff. But I was kind of curious as to why he.
Oh, his wife was in Skamania Lodge for a conference. He had time to kill.
Oh.
He's never down here for that.
Yeah.
So he decided might as well.
Okay. Cool.
Me and Jake actually had dinner with him at the Wasack. They wanted a landfill dinner, so we had already met.
Well, Dave was there, wasn't he?
No, Dave wasn't at that one. Oh, was he?
Oh,
Yeah,
I was.
You were at that
yeah,
one,
he was
okay.
there.
You were at the other side of the table.
I was at the
right?
other side of the table.
Okay.
I was working ones that you don't already.
Right.
Right.
That's why I was
That's
like,
what I asked him. When did they renegotiate his contract? And he's
It is.
thinking
Good
there's
morning,
like
sir.
20 years left on their contract.
There's
And
18.
Okay. Why were you here?
Well, exactly.
But he's running for state rep this year, so. I told him I'd take as many pictures as he wanted to take.
Okay, thanks. It's kind of cool in here today,
It
too.
is.
Well, that's because you got a cool commissioners.
There you
Giving off
go.
that cool vibe.
It's kind of a trend in the building today. I don't know what the deal is. We had some issues yesterday with the power went on and off a couple times, and it played havoc with a couple of the units. And it
And
put one of the
phones and internet and everything else.
Yeah, right, yeah. One of the boilers went into default yesterday, so luckily we have 2, so. But it was pretty warm yesterday. It's cool today.
Give it about 10 years, we'll get all the bugs worked out of the building.
Yeah, if it's a mechanical system, it'll break,
Uh-huh.
for sure.
All right, gentlemen, whenever you're ready.
Okay, we just have one item on the agenda, and we added that one, thankfully yesterday. It's a pay estimate for Kirby, and it's for $67,872.92. And so they're getting close. Let's see, grant-funded signs and guidepost project on the construction side, that'll restart here. Their working days have started, but they're not able to start work. So they have enough days to finish, and so they have 2 days that they're trying to finish up another job, and they feel they can still finish our work in the time that's allotted for them, so. And they have that option. Roosevelt Grade Road, so we've been doing punch list items and the remaining work that they weren't able to finish last year, so they've got down to just permanent signing is the last thing they have to do. And then once that's done, they're complete. And this year's projects, Courtney Road, so they started falling trees, and they actually plowed snow in the closed section yesterday, which they're required to do to maintain it.
Yep, the closed section.
Yeah, so, because we still have a few people that need to get out from up there. They probably got to the plowing faster than we did, since that's all they had to do. Yesterday it was slow for us getting our plows reconnected because it's spring. Shouldn't be using them anymore, but I think by about 6:15, we had everything reconnected, and the guys the people that's trucks were ready first, they were already out, so it was just the last trucks were
not out till about 6:15, so.
Yeah, you guys did
Yeah.
a great job with that, and I think the community, in the most part, understood you already had the plow blades off, so it takes a little more time, and
Yeah,
maybe you shouldn't be on the road.
yeah,
So-
the east supervisor from Bickleton, he said we got a February event over there in April.
Yeah.
You know, usually it's because they got a lot of snow and they had a lot of drifting. So a lot more to clean up. It's just crazy. Still working on it. So it didn't go away over there like it did in some other areas. Let's see. So back to Courtney Road. The contractor is burning the slash piles and continuing to work on that. The ground may be a little softer with all this moisture though, so it's gonna make it a little tougher for a little bit to firm up again. So on the design side, we were gonna have an open house tonight, but we rescheduled that yesterday when we weren't sure what we were gonna end up with, and what the weather was gonna hold for this week. So we'll reschedule it to May, no big deal. We boosted a Facebook ad to the community and posted signs and notified everybody we could, so.
Did you pick the day in May yet, or not?
What's that?
Have you picked the date yet, or not?
No, I think
Haven't
somewhere toward the first or middle of May, and we'll send notices back. You guys will get a notice.
Yeah.
So. Let's see, so that's a big thing on the path. The parking lot, so last week on Monday, we met with the city of Goldendale for the hearing for the vacation of Grant Street. And they were not in favor of it. I think I was the only one that had the project and was in favor of it at the meeting. And so they don't want to close Grant Street, so we went back and looked at what we could do to maximize the number of parking spaces, keep Grant Street open. And so the big handout, the 11 by 17, is what we are proposing to do. So this is mostly, all this parking is on county property, except for there's some angled parking along Grant Street. So part of that's on city right of way and part of it is on our property. So that's a little bit different, but we'll construct this by permit. Won't have to vacate the road. So the work we will do, the big difference is that everything in blue is new work. So there's some sidewalk along Court Street that's, kind of disintegrated over time. It's old. Up against the jail, we have originally, before we changed it, there was head-in parking that was about 8 or 10 feet long. So vehicles were sticking out in the road. Then we changed it to angled parking, which takes a little more room, but we kind of move things over and around. But there's still really only about 8 or 10 feet to park. So we're gonna change that to parallel parking, which the city had asked for to keep us out of the street. And we lose about 14 stalls. 12 spaces, sorry. And this is the new configuration. So the Grant Street stays open. We have a one-way on the west side of our property and angled parking and a big loop basically to get back onto Grant Street on the bottom of the page.
I had 2 questions.
Yeah.
Does that sidewalk in the middle of our parking lot have to be there?
No, but we end up with extra space and there is a sidewalk there currently.
Right.
And I think the city, when we met, they had talked about it'd be nice to keep it.
Right, well, there was a couple keep and there was a couple lose, so that's why I was kind of curious.
Yeah.
Not, either way. The only thing I see with this is our parking lot spaces on Grant Street diagonal, but they're diagonal if you're coming from Court. So most of Lauren's complaints were, in Filberto's, were too much traffic on Court Street. So just me thinking, if you have the entrance coming from Court, if they were actually coming from down south, you're gonna eliminate 2 of the city councilman's concerns if they were turned the other direction. The stuff inside the parking lot's fine, but the stuff actually on Grant Street Because then the church wouldn't be complaining that they don't have to drive all the way around. Lauren wouldn't be complaining that you have too much traffic on Court. Filberto wouldn't be complaining that there's too many traffic on Court to get fire personnel through, so. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so we looked at having angled parking, and what it does is it drastically offsets the intersection. Cause so I can't fix the southern part of Grant Street, which lines up perfectly with what's there on paper and as shown. If I add angled parking up against the jail, that shoves this
Right, no,
piece.
I'm not talking about the parallel section, I'm talking about in our parking lot.
He says.
Just reversing the spaces.
Then
don't-
you're
yeah, but-
pulling out
Yeah,
across
you don't
two
back
lanes.
up into,
Right.
across traffic, you don't do that. So you pull in and back out into the lane, same lane and direction of
Yes.
travel you're
Aha,
traveling. You
okay.
can't,
Yeah,
you can't
Okay.
flip it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
On
answer.
that side, I could,
you
Yeah.
could have to.
Yeah.
put
See,
it
that's
on the
that
other
engineering statement that I made, that they'll get over that because that's the
yeah,
right
there's,
statement. Okay.
I'm limited to what I
Right,
can do.
nope, good answer. I just know they're gonna ask me that question, so now I know the answer to that question.
Uh-huh.
All right. No,
So,
good.
and I sat down with Larry again and kind of went through, we looked at this and then with their Public Works and the fire to kind of, does this make sense? And they really did not want to offset Grant Street to provide, because we almost could have put parking on both sides, but it would have been a challenge. But the intersection would have been drastically offset, more than half a lane.
And that's not advisable.
No,
either.
because you're,
We have plenty of parking.
That
with
doesn't
the new
meet.
System, I think, in the end, and if this is what they want, and they're the ones that wanted to maximize parking, and they're willing to come down some, then I think it's fine. And right now, Grant, I mean, with both ways, it is tight going through. there.
yeah.
I think you'll get unanimous support for this. So,
Yeah, so everything, so the difference is we'll actually, it'll cost us less. Because we're not doing anything on Grant Street. Everything in blue is new. And the stuff that's over against the jail, really all we're doing there is putting a curb between the sidewalk and the parallel parking, and then we'll restripe that. But it's, good concrete surface, so we're not changing that. And then we'll just pave the west side where our property is and fix the sidewalk where it needs to be repaired. But some of it, where we can save it, we'll save it.
Well, we like saving money, so.
Yeah, so that. Good solution. Yeah. All right, so that's that. Okay. Working on our small works guardrail project. We actually went to training sent some guys to training, so we'll be able to repair those ends.
Yes.
I talked about that before, that we've never really been able to do that, but we got training, so
Certified.
certified, yeah.
Guardrail in certified.
Yes.
Technician.
Yeah. Those ends are proprietary, and
Yeah, they have to be
it's
certified.
a safety thing, and that's usually where people hit, is
Uh-huh.
that end, unprotected end, and so you have to do it a certain way or you open yourself up for liability. So now we can do this kind of
Yeah.
work, which is great.
So how much should that save us by not having to call out contractors to do it all?
That's a good question. We spend probably $100,000 a year repairing guardrail.
Yeah,
Having a
they,
contract to do
Overall
that.
guardrail,
We now replace damaged rail, straight rail sections. We can fix those, but these are all the ends.
and so we'll save some money, we'll still have the annual contract because we don't have the ability to drive posts. If you lose a whole run, then we don't
Yeah.
have the,
Right.
it's not feasible to buy that equipment. So you'll save the ends, and those run about $5,000 a
A
piece
piece.
to do. So we can do the ends where they're not with a bunch of rail. A lot of times the truck hits them and
It's all gone.
yeah, you see what it looks like.
Yeah. But it'll help us in
Yes.
a lot of cases. Let's see, so maintenance side, the guys were adjusting to weather conditions on both east and west yesterday, and a little bit more on the east end today. Then we'll go back to sweeping sand off the road, cleaning ditches and grading.
You're not sweeping it back on the road.
Not yet.
We're still hopeful that spring is
We
here.
don't need it
Yeah,
anymore.
On the west end, the one thing they've added after yesterday was things will dry out. They'll be crack sealing in Dallasport and getting ready for the summer,
Mhm.
which will eventually be here. Okay, the new building. So the contractor mobilized in some of their equipment today. They were supposed to be here yesterday to start work back on the courthouse parking lot. So it's good to see that happening finally. Our flooring people who were scheduled for yesterday to be in the building and finish up have to reschedule. So we're working on a reschedule date. Our HVAC contractor came back and finished the unit in WSU on Friday, and it is drastically better. It's really pretty nice. We still have issues in building and planning, the large open area up there. There's a motor in one of the units the return is basically, I don't know, 5 feet from where the fan coil is and the motor, so you can actually hear it. They are not sure if it's a loud motor and needs to be replaced, or they have to do something else because it's just too close to the return and you're gonna hear it. In most cases, that doesn't happen because the returns are long, but in this case, it's really short. Let's see, so I think we've cleaned up a lot of the areas. Oh, the entrance or waiting rooms for health department are really the noisiest area left. So we're chipping away, getting down there. There's just a few areas left, which is great. And like I said, we had a couple of units go down when the power went out yesterday. They've been shut down and they're up working on the 3rd floor on those today. I think we get a little more furniture here in the next few weeks. Our tables for the room below us, the conference room, the large conference room should arrive. And then I think the other pieces of furniture for the lobby areas, the real furniture that we ordered will arrive within the next, I think, 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So we're getting down there, which is nice. They still have some issues with the motorized blinds in this room and then downstairs. And it's just a problem with the company that they have and their financial challenges. And so the contractor's trying to work through that with them so they can finish this job since we're so close to being done. But so it's taken long for other reasons, not just because you can't can't obtain the parts that you ordered. So the doors for HR and weed space come tomorrow, so we can install those and finish that remodel up and move Elizabeth out of Marty's office and kind of normalize that situation there. And then our buildings and grounds crew are trying to keep up with the weather and help the treasurer load all the furniture out the door from Annex 1 into the people that purchased it through the auction. I talked to the new owner of Annex 5 who's moving it, and they are on the 18th and 19th, they're gonna start moving the sections out. And so on Tuesday, they've asked the city for a permit to temporarily close that section of road, and they'll start dragging the sections out and hauling them off. So they're pretty close to getting done, which is good. Let's see, the HVAC unit on top of the HVAC units that we're replacing on top of the courthouse, that work starts on the 19th, so next week. And then we have to remove the one unit from Annex 1. So the old senior space in there, used to be WSU, will get colder.
Yep.
But that's okay, because we're gonna demo the building in May, hopefully the end of May.
We just
1st of
put
June.
That unit in a couple of years ago, so that's not going with the building.
Yeah,
Keep the-
it's a good unit. And the radio side, I don't know if you have an
No, we
update.
went downhill because of the snow. Doesn't help us getting the archaeological stuff or the geotech stuff done. Have to fly the guy in at this rate. And then we could do the Superior Court supplement. The Superior Court, I had last year we had on a design, and that was anticipation of a grant that's coming up. Our consultant got busy and didn't get it finished. And so I just said, well, I thought they'd get it done, and then we forgot about it. We didn't carry it over. Well, then I got a call from the granting agency and said, hey, you guys are pretty successful. Are you going to want to apply come this summer? Well, part of having that is to have the design. If you have the design ready for the courtroom, you're a lot more apt to get the grant. The kicker with the grant is it's 50% match. The nice thing is, though, the 50% match, we can use the money that we spend on remodeling those 2 spaces as the match. And I also actually talked him into using some of the parking lot money we're spending over there to do the parking lot
Because it was delayed,
because
yeah.
it was delayed as part of the match too. Because your window is any money you've spent at the courthouse facilities from January of 2022 until I think it's January of 2023 can be considered match. So with that said, we'd like to carry that over so we could keep that project going, which means, we stand a lot better, still no guarantee, but we stand a lot better chance of getting the grant if we have a design in place, because it takes a while, because you got to work with the judge and the clerks and everybody that's associated with Superior Court. It's something that they've wanted for quite a while and something that needs to be done, gets rid of the acoustic problems that we have in the courtroom and some of the other things.
So was this obviously not part of this year's capital? Was it forecasted for next year, or when was it actually?
It's been on the list for a while. The actual design was on last year's money and it was never spent. It was on the non-capital for the design of it. We've gone through all the meetings and everything with it, and it's just a matter of the consultant now drafting up and finalizing the plans to submit to DHAP. So yeah, it was on last year. The project has been on the 6th year, but it's grant dependent for quite a while. The nice thing, like I said, is we can use the remodel money for our 50% match, and that's money we plan on spending anyway.
And while there's no guarantee, when the grantor asks you,
Submit a
Yeah.
project.
if you are submitting, it's really, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can use that as our match. That sounds great.
But it takes the $40,000.
You're gonna need to
That
come up
wasn't
with 40 grand
carried
at some
over.
point.
Yeah. Well,
It wasn't carried over from last year.
yeah.
It was in last year's budget. We didn't spend it. But you'll see it on the supplement pages.
Right.
A few other things.
Go ahead.
And we're rescheduling the meeting.
That was on my list.
So the preliminary times I have is Tuesday there's nothing this week. So it'd be Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, or Thursday morning.
Which
And-
meeting is it?
Dallasport.
Dallsport.
With the Dallasport
Wastewater.
Yes.
Supposed to do it yesterday.
And they were happy that we weren't doing it
Yesterday.
because of the weather.
They had some things to do.
Yeah.
I have workshops next Thursday. Wednesday I can't. The USDA director is coming Wednesday to look at the white sand. We were gonna do it tomorrow, and then she asked to push it off a week to next Wednesday, so the 20th won't work.
Who's coming to look at what?
The assisted living
Oh, got it.
project.
Oh,
So I'm gonna try to
push that along.
push that along.
Put your hand in her pocket.
What's that?
Put your hand in her pocket. Try to get a wallet out.
Yeah, well, yeah. More of a wallet than what they've offered so far. We're hoping to narrow the gap in the, that we'll see. So when are they talking on next Thursday? Because we have
Morning.
workshops, so it'd be in the morning.
Yeah.
Remedial and workshops, so. And then next Tuesday,
Afternoon. I can get a time out of them and then maybe we push it to the following week and see what their availability is too, if you're not available.
you know, unless it was late or in the afternoon Tuesday, depending on how full our.
I can ask
Or
them,
the afternoon on the workshop, I
Yeah.
don't think we're here all day, so.
yeah, I know they're not available Thursday afternoon. So I can ask them how long Doug is available for and see maybe they can do something at 3. Will that work? Okay, I'll check at 3 on Tuesday.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's it for us.
All right.
Can you let me know when you go back before city council with Grant Street?
Okay.
So I can be there on your side this time?
I'll hopefully talk to Larry, and we kind of tentatively talked about maybe next Monday.
Okay.
I think that's when they meet again, so it'd be nice to just kind of wrap this up so
Yeah.
we can keep moving forward.
Yep, just let me know and I will be there. And then I don't know, last time I went out that into the building last week, our little rock garden out there outside public health was full of litter.
Oh,
So it got me thinking later, do we have a garbage can out there? Do we have a smoking butt can like we have over here? If we don't, we probably should. Maybe it won't be full of litter. But also maybe our building guys need to go through there and pick
Yeah,
up the
well-
27 napkins that are laying down in the rocks. It looks kind of trashy.
we'll monitor it. East sides of buildings in our county
The wind,
collect,
yes,
it just swirls around and collects it. And that is a bad spot for that, because it's a hole.
And it's
it
a hole
just
and it's
drops
sunk
out.
and it's all around the barriers of the deal. So just thought I'd throw it to your attention.
Thank you. We'll take a look and take care of it.
That's all I have.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. And I heard from Trout Lake, they were really happy. You guys did a great job when your crews went through and cleaned up the irrigation ditch.
Thank you.
Oh, I did, just to follow up, because I was noticing the flooding in Glenwood on Troll Lane. But did we have any?
Emails.
I saw the email. That was like a couple weeks ago. I
Yes.
didn't know. And I know it's the same. We've been out there before,
Yeah.
several years ago, and
Yeah, Whitney's working with the property owners to see what can be done, the Thrive and Fish and
Right.
Wildlife. and
Yeah.
I know
all
it's
the
very
players.
challenging
It
because of
is.
the terrain and our ability to get the water out of there.
Yeah, it jumps the bank after it crosses under our road.
Right.
And then before it gets to our next, large culvert, it's huge. And so, and that's been happening for years and years and years. And so, she's trying to work on a long-term solution, because and we can chase culverts around, but we're really not gonna gain
No.
anything. Yeah, and so I gotta follow up with the property owner, because I still have a question about their driveway culverts. But, it won't matter what we do. Because if it keeps coming out of the bank and flooding the whole area.
Right, it has to
Right.
go somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay. Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next up, department update from Human Resources and Administrative Services Director Rob Van Gliebe. And staff.
Nothing but good news.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Welcome back, Commissioner Sauter.
Although it was a little shocking way to come back.
Yes.
I ain't even been here for 2 weeks.
So, Mr. Chair, Jen has a few things to mention this morning, and then we'll go right into executive session if that's your wish.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It looks like Pam and the auditor's office and Greg were able to get the last close and roll done. So I am working on fund balances this morning. I got the general fund completed this morning, and you have that in front of you as well as in your smart sheet workspace. So we are now sitting for 2022 beginning fund balance at 3.4, which is pretty average over the course of time of where we have been. I mean, we kind of spiked up for a couple years to 5, but unavailable of that is 2.15. I will work on 125 by the end of the day and shoot you guys a note that that is done, and then continue on with the rest of the funds after that.
So you think it's balancing out, or is it?
It is balancing out.
So it's leveling off?
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Everything's for now.
It's always for now.
It's always for now.
So there's that bit of good news. The other thing that I had this morning is I was able to get those dashboards that I presented the last time I was in front of you guys embedded into my website. So I have the 2022 dashboard under financial dashboards on the website. And it loads just like Smartsheets does. In the bottom, you can hover over and it'll pop up all the information as well.
The magic continues.
Isn't technology great?
Technology is great. So it has
Yeah.
When you don't get a fatal error.
just about all the same functionality as you guys do on your workspace, except for you can't click into it, but you can see all the information, you can hover over it.
It gives everybody, I think, the 10,000 foot view that I think they want. If they really want to dive into ground level numbers, they're just gonna have to ask for those and we'll provide them. But I don't think the general public wants to dive into the nickels and dimes of things.
Yeah, it's all the visual stuff instead of the raw data. So I think that's more important. So in 21, I just had the revenue overview tab with that dashboard, separated out all funds expenses, and then the general fund specific.
See, now if we can get technology into the rest of our county website, I'll be happy.
So that's.
Are we still working on website upgrade that we were gonna get last winter? We get too busy?
Yes and no.
Okay,
We still have a free upgrade coming. We have not scheduled it.
okay.
So that's all I have this morning, actually. Short and sweet. Any questions for me?
Okay, so our budgeted revenues in 2021, now that it's all been closed out, was 18.5, and we really brought in 17.7
For the general fund,
for the general fund.
yes.
And then in 2020, our budgeted revenues were less. We brought in less in actual, and 2019 as well. So we've been budgeting higher revenues than we've actually been receiving in the general fund for the last few years, it looks.
For 2020 and 21.
Yeah, where it used to go the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it now goes the other way. Or will.
And then so with the expenditures, the budgeted was 18.5, the actual 17.1. Do we have that figured out on what made most of that difference? That was pretty significant.
I can run a report, but I haven't dove into it.
Okay, that would be good to know. Is this, I mean, was it COVID or what was it that 2020, budgeted 15.9. Yeah, we've had some serious discrepancies there, which are good. I mean, I always like spending less than I budget, but I want to know why, and is that going to return or continue?
But if revenues are coming down and expenses are going up, then
Well, I think it's important to note too, is that booked in as revenue are landfill transfers. And so some of those we may have chosen to not transfer money in.
Right.
So it's not like we didn't get a paycheck, we just chose to not move money.
To put it in.
Yeah.
To put it in we put it in the reserve or we put it somewhere else. And so I think that's important to just remind everybody that some of those incomes, we have control over putting them in there or not. And we may have, I don't know. I'd be curious when you run the report. Because it is very, it's good to pay attention. That's something I think we've gotten a lot better at as far as making sure that when people are budgeting their revenues, they're actually attainable revenues, because that is the easiest way of balancing a budget is by putting you just adjust your revenues up that you can't do. And so, departments that generate revenues have to actually put realistic targets based on past performance. You can't just, I'm 50,000 short on my budget, so I'll just raise revenues $50,000 to cover it. And then at the end of the year, look, I didn't meet my revenue goal.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so,
and I think they'll have better information now with the work Jen's doing.
no,
Getting
it's
the
good.
historical trend of their.
I mean, the thing I will say I like, the most relevant fact to me that I like to see is the green line is above the red line.
Right.
For the first time in 2 years.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
I mean, the green line was
dollars.
above the red line for years and years and years. Then they crossed over and now they're reset.
Right,
So,
but it's
Yeah.
also, I like the black line is not nosediving.
right,
It's kind of leveled anyway.
right. So that's good.
Yes,
So
Good things.
things are, so that's, again, mostly good news.
mostly good news.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
All right, Mr. Chair, we're ready for executive session if you are.
So I just wanted one more.
Oh, okay.
So the cumulative reserve on the bottom, and that's as, a revenue source. So the 1.973 million, that is a transfer from cumulative reserves. So
That was the
From the
ARPA
ARPA.
money, lost
ARPA
revenue.
cash in and out.
That was the ARPA lost revenue.
that was the lost revenue that fixed the budget. Right, see, so then the question is the green line and the red line really we're at right there, or was it money that we transferred in from ARPA that fixed it?
I would say the money in from ARPA fixed a revenue shortfall that was over projected.
Yeah, and I'd say the 22 line budgeted, the lines are together.
Mhm.
So, and that is without any additional ARPA money
Without-
put into it.
Without the
Yeah,
ARPA
without
money.
the
in there.
$900,000 worth of cuts.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And we did cover.
And a sales tax increase.
And a sale, right, that's how it's fixed.
And we did cover with the original money in 2020, some of the sheriff budget, a significant portion of that, which was not a loss.
Right.
So
Mhm.
we were able to do that, but so.
Yes, I mean, the lost revenue was a big factor, but we did have actual lost revenue. We had, landfill of almost $900,000. When the offices aren't open, they're not able to collect those fees. It's a contributing factor as well. All those things play a part into it.
Right.
Anything
Okay,
else?
thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
This is great information.
Good stuff.
Okay, how long?
I didn't request a meeting. I have no idea. 15?
We'll start with 15. All right, we will be entering into executive session in accordance with RCW 4230-110-1, subparagraph G, to review the performance, discipline, and qualifications of a public employee. As always, issues of a general nature will be discussed in open session. We will be going in to begin with for 15 minutes. And just so everybody on Zoom land knows, after that, we will be going to lunch until 1 o'clock. So the only reason we're coming back is to recess. So we will see everyone at 1 o'clock.